Listen up, my dear friends. Have you ever picked up the phone and heard a voice say, "You owe money"? Maybe for an old credit card, a medical bill, or something your late husband signed for? And before you could even think, you felt your chest tighten, your hand reach for the checkbook, just to make the fear go away? Before we continue, if this video brought you any value today, I'd love for you to join me in doing one small good thing each day by supporting through Super Thanks. Every contribution helps provide warm blankets, a hot meal, or simply a moment of kindness for someone living outside without a place to call home. Now, let's get started. One of my clients, Lorraine, is 76 years old. She lives alone in the house she and her husband bought back in the 70s. After he passed, she started getting calls about a $9,000 balance on a card she never touched. The collector said, "It's your duty now." So she paid the first $200 just to stop the pressure. No one had told her. She didn't legally owe a single cent. Here's what I want you to know. There are debts that sound official, sound scary, but the law says you do not have to pay them. The twist? Most people, especially older adults trying to do the right thing, don't know. And the companies calling you? They're counting on that. Because the truth is, we were raised to pay what we owe, to not make a fuss, to be responsible. But that instinct, the very thing that makes you a good person, is what these collectors exploit. They want you to feel ashamed, powerless, afraid to ask questions. Today, I'll walk you through 6 types of debt that seniors are most often pressured to pay, but that you may legally walk away from. Gently, clearly, and with no drama. Just facts, stories, and your real rights. I've helped hundreds of older adults, many of them women, many living alone, find relief in these exact situations. And I'll tell you this, the freedom you feel when you learn what you don't have to pay, it's worth everything. Stay with me until the end, because I'll also reveal one type of debt that many collectors pursue even though they legally can't, and a simple sentence you can use to make it stop. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? And how has your sense of financial peace been lately? We read every single comment, and your story might be just what someone else needs today. Now, let's start with one of the most common and one of the most misunderstood types of debt, those old bills that are too old to sue you for. Section 1. Debt too old to sue you. Statute of limitations. Let me ask you something. Have you ever picked up the phone and someone says you owe money from 10, maybe even 15 years ago? Like a debt that just refuses to go away, even though you barely remember what it was for? That happened to Mr. Reed, 77, who called me in tears. He kept getting letters about a store credit card he hadn't used since 2009. The collector said they might sue. He was terrified. But when we looked into it, we found out the debt was what we call time barred. Too old to collect through court. The calls stopped. He could finally sleep. Here's what you need to know. Every state has what's called a statute of limitations, a legal time limit on how long collectors can sue you. In many states, that's 3 to 6 years for credit cards. Once that window closes, they can still try to collect, but they can't legally force you through court. But be careful. If you say the wrong thing or send money, even a few dollars, you might accidentally restart that clock. So, what should you do if this happens? First, ask for a validation letter in writing. Then, check your state's statute of limitations. If it's expired, you have the right to say no. You're not being irresponsible. You're just not stuck in yesterday's debt. Many of these cases never even reach court. Why? Because the collector knows the debt can't be enforced, but you have to know to ask. And you can do this too. If this reminds you of something you're going through, share it in the comments. Someone else might be going through the same thing and need your voice. Now, let's talk about those medical bills you thought were behind you. but somehow found their way back into your life. Section 2. Old medical bills sent to collectors. You ever go through a surgery, a test, maybe a hospital stay, and months or years later the bills come back like a bad dream? Not from the hospital, but from someone new, a collector. And the number keeps calling. Clara, 74, told me she felt like she was being punished for trying to take care of her health. She had a biopsy done at a nonprofit hospital. Years later, her mailbox was filled with scary letters from a debt collection agency. She panicked. But when we looked closer, the hospital had actually written off the debt. And because of her fixed income, she would have qualified for their charity care program, something they never told her. This is more common than you think. Many hospitals, especially nonprofits, write off old bills for tax purposes or sell them to debt buyers. But collectors don't always have the documents to prove you owe anything at all. And if they can't prove it, they can't collect it. So before you pay a medical bill that's gone to collections, ask for written validation. When was the original bill issued? Has it been sold or written off? And ask the hospital if you ever qualified for assistance. The burden is not on you to guess. It's on them to prove. Medical bills can feel overwhelming, but you're not at fault for needing care. You're not losing your memory, and you're not alone in this. If you've had something like this happen, I invite you to share it in the comments. You might be the reason someone else finds their voice. Next, let's look at the kind of debt that doesn't even belong to you, but shows up anyway, right after someone you love is gone. Section 3. Debts from a deceased spouse. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever gotten a call about a debt you never signed for, but felt pressured to pay anyway because it belonged to someone you loved? That's what happened to Mrs. Martinez, 78. After her husband passed, she started getting calls about his old credit card. They used guilt. They said, "Don't you want to do the right thing?" She started paying, quietly, out of her own pension, until her niece stepped in and told her to call me. We looked at the documents together. Her name was never on the account. That's when she finally breathed. She sent one sentence: "This is not my debt. Please contact the estate." And just like that, the calls stopped. Here's the truth. If you didn't co-sign, you are not responsible. Credit card companies can only collect from the deceased person's estate, not from your personal funds. But many collectors count on grief to cloud clarity. If you're in this situation, you can say it kindly, firmly. This isn't my debt. That's not cold. That's your right. Grief is already more than enough. You don't owe these calls another ounce of your peace. If someone you know has faced this, I invite you to share in the comments. You could be the reason someone else finds relief. Now, let's shift to something even more surprising: student loans. Section 4. Federal student loans. That disappear duration: 2 minutes. Maybe you took out a loan for your child to go to college, or maybe you went back to school later in life to pursue something new. Either way, the payments followed you into retirement, and the burden just never let up. That was Mary, 65. She called about a Parent Plus loan she could no longer keep up with. After a major illness, she could no longer work. We looked into it together and found that she qualified for a total disability discharge. Her $23,000 balance? Gone. Just like that. Most people don't know this. If you're permanently disabled, or the student you borrowed for has passed away, federal law allows your loan to be fully forgiven. No more bills, no more interest, and your family won't have to carry it after you're gone. These loans die with you. It's not giving up. It's not being irresponsible. It's recognizing that your health and peace matter now. Retirement should be for resting, not for reliving tuition payments from 20 years ago. If this sounds like your story, I encourage you to ask your servicer about the Total and Permanent Disability Discharge Program. One small phone call could change your monthly life. Now, Let's talk about the kind of debt that was supposed to disappear because you filed for bankruptcy, but somehow it's still haunting you. Section 5. Discharged bankruptcy debts. Still being collected. Bankruptcy is supposed to be the clean slate, the sigh of relief. But what if months later, collectors still write, still call, still try? That's what happened to Joan 70. She had gone through a painful Chapter 7, wiped out her unsecured debt, and tried to move forward. Then came a letter. You still owe. It rattled her. But when she calmly mailed back her discharge notice, the letter stopped. Truth is, once a debt is discharged in bankruptcy, it is no longer legally enforceable. The law is clear, and any attempt to collect is a violation of federal protection. But many older adults second-guess themselves. Maybe I missed something, they think. That hesitation is what shady collectors hope for. But the discharge is final. You have it in writing. That's your shield. You're not doing anything wrong by saying, "This debt was discharged. Please stop contacting me." You're doing something brave. And you're not alone. Thousands of seniors have walked this road and stood their ground. You can do this too. Let's take one more step to the tiniest debts that somehow take up the most space in your mind. Section 6. Small debts not worth chasing. A $32 balance from a decade ago. A utility charge from a place you no longer live. It's amazing how something so small can feel so heavy. Ruth, 82, got a notice about a gym cancellation fee from 2013. She was frightened. What if they sued? What if her pension was at risk? One phone call later, just a question asked, and the collector closed the file. Most small debts simply aren't worth the legal effort. Collectors know that. If it costs more to chase than collect, they usually walk away. And for seniors, many income sources, like Social Security, VA benefits, or SSI, are protected from garnishment. That $50 debt feels big, emotionally. Legally, it's often ignored. Still, fear lingers. That's understandable. But the math is in your favor. And so is the law. If something feels too small to lose sleep over, it probably is. Now, let's take a quiet moment together and look back at all 6 types of debt you may not have to carry anymore. Let's take a soft breath together. Today, we walked through 6 kinds of debt that may no longer belong on your shoulders. Old credit balances, medical bills that were sent to collectors, debts in your spouse's name, federal student loans, discharged bankruptcy debts, and small amounts no longer worth chasing. These were never just about money. They were about peace, about the right to rest without fear. You didn't grow up in a world full of auto-renewals, confusing codes, and call centers that treat you like a number. It's okay to pause and ask, is this mine? Do I still owe this? It's okay to question, to protect your space, to say no with calm, quiet strength. Sometimes all it takes is one phone call, one printed form, one deep breath of courage. If something in this video brought you relief, or even just made you feel a little more seen, share it with someone you care about. Or leave a comment. What's one debt you're going to review this week? Your story might help someone else feel braver too. And remember, I'm not just a lawyer. I'm someone who believes deep down that you still deserve peace, not someday, now. And I'll keep showing up to help you find it.